India's Ministry of External Affairs on August 4th exposed the double standards adopted by the United States of America and the European Union vis-à-vis their trade relations with Russia. India termed tariffs and penalties unjust and unreasonable as US and European Union continued their imports and exports with Russia even during Ukraine war, while targeting India for its oil imports from Russia. Leave aside US and EU, even Ukraine did the trade with Russia during the war. Before I read MEA's statement, let's have a look at US trade with Russia from the time Ukraine war started. To begin with, in 2022, the US trade with Russia was around $20.2 billion. That included $4.5 billion exports and $15.7 billion imports with a trade deficit of about $11.2 billion. In 2024, total US trade with Russia came down to about $3.5 billion, including $526.1 million exports and $3 billion imports, with trade deficit of about $2.5 billion. Before the ban over Ukraine war, the United States net monthly imports from Russia averaged around 585,000 barrels per day in February 2022 and about 575,000 barrels per day in March. After the ban in October 2022, 36,800 barrels, and in November 2022, 9,900 barrels of Russian crude were imported under special OFAC licenses valued at about $2.7 million and $750,000 respectively. MEA India's statement says, and I quote, "Where the United States is concerned, it continues to import from Russia uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals." Unquote. National Defense brings you a more detailed breakup of US imports from Russia while Ukraine war was ongoing. During the 2024-5 summer, Russian export-import data shows that over 200 metric tons of uranium hexafluoride were imported into the United States. In 2024, US imports of enriched uranium from Russia was about 335 tons, valued at approximately $624 million. According to Moscow Times, for 2023, United States nuclear power operators imported 701 plus metric tons of enriched uranium from Russia, valued at about $1.2 billion. Though this figure refers to enriched uranium, not solely uranium hexafluoride, UF6. Now, if we talk about US palladium imports from Russia, in 2022, the US imported approximately 20.4 million tons of unwrought palladium or powder from Russia, valued at around $1.354 billion. This accounted for roughly 34% of all palladium imports from Russia that year. As Ukraine war was progressing, next year in 2023, the imports from Russia rose to about 23.8 metric tons. That was valued at $1.0798 billion. US imported more but cheaper. Interestingly, Russia remained the single largest support supplier to the US ahead of South Africa. US total imports from Russia in that category included inorganic chemicals, precious metals compounds, which also covers palladium, were valued at around $695.7 million in 2024. MEA in its statement said that, and I quote, "India has been targeted by the United States and the European Union for importing oil from Russia after the commencement of the Ukraine conflict. In fact, India began importing from Russia because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe after the outbreak of the conflict. The United States at that time actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy market stability. India's imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. They are necessarily compelled by global market situation. However, it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. The European Union in 2024 had a bilateral trade of euro 67.5 billion in goods with Russia. In addition, it had trade in services estimated at 17.2 billion euro in 2023. This is significantly more than India's total trade with Russia that year on subsequent basis. European imports of LNG in 2024 in fact reached a record 16.5 million tons, surpassing the last record of 15.21 million ton in 2022. Europe-Russia trade includes not just energy but also fertilizers, mining products, chemicals, iron and steel, and machinery and transport equipment. Before I tell you Ukraine trade with Russia, let me give you further breakup of European Union and Russia trade. Russia's trade with European Union in 2024 was estimated at 67.5 billion euro. This included 36 billion imports into the European Union from Russia, and EU export to Russia totaled roughly 31.5. If we talk about Russian energy exports to EU, then in 2023, Russia supplied approximately 15% of the European Union's total gas, 14.9 million tons of Russian LNG. In 2024, Russia supplied approximately 31.6 billion cubic meters of pipeline gas to the European Union, and the same year, European Union imports of Russian LNG soared to a record 16.5 to 17.5 million tons. Russian energy still accounts for approximately 13% of the European Union's total gas imports in 2025. In early 2025, European Union countries imported 837,300 metric tons of Russian LNG in just the first 15 days of the January itself. You would be wondering that the United States and European Union wants India not to trade with Russia, but you will be surprised that in 2024, Ukraine exported a small volume of steel to Russia, about 26,871 ton, that was valued at $21 million. Trump wants to rebalance the geopolitics through tariffs, but in May 2025, the United States Court of International Trade ruled that these tariffs exceeded the legal authority afforded under IEEPA. The court invalidated the Liberation Day tariffs, finding that routine trade imbalances don't meet the state's unusual and extraordinary threshold and represents executive overreach into policy reserved for Congress. The case is still sub judice, I believe. Trump earlier invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act and the National Emergencies Act, declaring trade and energy dependency on Russia as threats warranting emergency tariffs. Ministry of External Affairs says that in this background, the targeting of India is unjust, it is unjustified and unreasonable. Like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic security. What do you think in this background when America and the European Union both are trading with Russia, even Ukraine exporting to Russia during the war, and they are threatening India with tariffs, with penalties, with sanctions? Do write what do you think in the comment box. Thanks for watching National Defense. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.